This is the Commissioner at Large, District 2, Thomas T.J. Reardon, and Harold, also known as Hal Walker. Mr. Reardon, Mr. Walker, you will give your opening statements. You have 2 minutes. We'll start with Mr. Reardon.
Hello there, my name is T.J. Reardon. I'm running for City Commissioner at Large. I work for AT&T and I'm now disabled retired. There seems to be some confusion about my campaign, and I kind of wanted to get this straightened out for everybody. Now this is my campaign advertisement, I would say. And on this advertisement, I want to let you know that I don't take any contributions. Would this be better down here? I don't take any contributions at all, because with contributions, and he's got a little stand there if you want to put it in there, right there. There you go. If you take contributions in your campaign, then you owe favors. If you owe favors, you win this race, you're in there, and then here comes the person that gave you your money, and he asks you to do something for him, you're stuck in a position. All I care about is the taxpayer. I want to make sure that the taxpayers get their respect, their fair respect, and I don't want to be influenced by anybody's money or anything that has to do anything with that. Now, I have, in the past, always been against corruption, and political corruption and greed is the biggest concern that we should have in this city, because it costs millions and millions of dollars a year that could be put somewhere else. I want you guys to please vote for me, April the 2nd, and I will get taxpayers their respect that's due. I'll fight your corruption, and I'll do everything I can to help you. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Walker.
Good evening, and thank you for coming. My name is Harold Walker. I go by Hal. Most of you who know me in the audience call me that. I prefer that. To me, this campaign, not only in our race, but in most of the races, is about knowledge and ability. I bring 23 years of experience inside the unified government as their chief legal counsel. 10 of that technically was as city attorney, but then when the unification occurred, I became the chief counsel. I am very familiar with how City Hall operates. I bring to it, in some ways, a knowledge that, because of my position, that most people don't have. I am an independent voice. I will not be subject to training or influenced by staff or administration. I have, without, campaigning is very hard for me because it's very hard to toot your own horn. But I think when you pick a candidate, you should look at who brings to the table what experience, what knowledge, what education, and what abilities. I think that during the time that I was there, I was a consensus builder. I believe that I operated with a wide range of personalities that constituted all the governing bodies, the Board of Public Utilities, and I think in fairness, they would all tell you that I treated them fairly, honorably, with respect, and worked to achieve whatever their objectives were. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to let the candidates know you will be given a question. You'll have 1.5 minutes to answer the question. And our timekeepers, Marty Tennis and Chuck Schlittler, got it right, will keep our time and pay attention to the yellow 30-second and 15-second. We'll now turn it over to our moderators, Elnora Jefferson and Mary Rupert.
The first question is for T.J. Reardon. The current UG administration has worked hard to formulate a plan to address Wyandotte County's dismal standing in state health indicators. Just today it was announced that Wyandotte County is 99th in the state out of 102 counties for health. Are you familiar with Healthy Communities Wyandotte's recommendations for a better future? Do you support them? And if yes, under the present budget constraints, how would you implement them?
I am semi-familiar with the plan and what you're talking about. And the main thing that I would like to do with that plan, of course, is I am for health care, as everybody is for health care. But the plan that you got to get implemented first would be for the children and then the elderly, and then let the middle work out for itself. And you got to take the funding for those particular items as far as the children, and then the elderly, and then the middle. And that's the way I would handle the situation.
Thank you. Same question?
The health issue is a complex one that is far beyond the ability of a local government to solve exclusively. The state has identified us as having a very low ranking within this state for health issues. We also are a unique county in the urban nature, the industrial nature. We cannot financially address the entire solution with the dollars locally. What we should be doing is those things that we can accomplish at a local level. One of the great things about our form of government that we have, not only from the federal to the state to the local, the federal and the state governments frequently have great ideas that need to be implemented. We call them mandates. And most of those mandates are unfunded as to how you go about solving the problem. Judging from what we're seeing in the legislature this year, we're not likely to get any help out of the state legislature to implement these problems. We have to bite off what we can. We have to address those recommendations that we can afford and implement and do the best we can, but there's just simply insufficient funds available to do everything that needs to be done. Thank you.
This question will go to Mr. Walker first, please. There is an interest in revising the current land bank policy in Kansas City, Kansas. What do you see as the purpose of the land bank? And how would you like to see the vacant properties put to use?
Well, originally the land bank was created as a means to get derelict properties off the tax rolls, put them in a common fund, if you will, make them available to developers, to neighbors, to people that could put the land back on the tax roll and use it for beneficial use. Ideally, what was designed was you would have a potential for a redevelopment, a housing redevelopment, perhaps a commercial redevelopment in a given area, and you would accumulate properties in that area so that you had control, and the government could then, at an affordable price, convey that property in exchange for the development. That has not proven to be what has happened. What mostly has happened is that either neighbors acquire the property for a bigger yard, or you have nonprofits which build houses that acquire them, and like ONDA, like CHWC, like I forget the name, but there are several of these that have acquired these, and then they build housing. That's certainly a good use. And how would I change it? Well, for one thing, I think that I would make this property easier to acquire than it currently is. And I wouldn't be so concerned with the purpose as much as the return to the tax rolls.
Thank you. Mr. Reardon?
The land bank idea was a good idea. I mean, it was meant to set up to work fine, but of course, everything that you try to plan never seems to work out the way you want it to. You've got to have rooftops. And our city is in desperate need of rooftops, and rooftops mean taxing, and more taxes, the more rooftops, the less each person has to pay. Now, you also got to get with your NBAs, and you got to get them involved in some of these land bank areas so that you can have business and housing, and then you start developing areas in the right way in which they're meant to be. The money's going to be tough. I don't see where we're going to have a whole lot of extra money coming up here in the near future. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Reardon.
Yes.
How many UG commission meetings, standing committee meetings, planning and zoning meetings, or public hearings for the UG have you attended in the last 6 months to hear the issues being discussed by the commission?
I've been to more commissioner meetings than they want me to. Every time I seem to go to one of these meetings, I keep asking the same question in which they don't want me to ask. And I ask who, what, when, where, and how have you spent all the money that the taxpayers, give you? Of course, nobody wants to answer that question. But it's kind of like, say that you had your child or your grandchild or your great-grandchild, and you gave them $50. And 4 days later, they come back to you and they want another $50. What's the first thing you're going to ask them? What'd you do with the last $50 I just gave you? Well, this is the same question I ask the city, but I can never get any answers. I say, what'd you do with the money? Show me what you did with the money. Never happens. Of course, I get labeled with a troublemaker or a complainer, or, shoot, it's been as bad as they've even had me thrown in jail for what I want to believe in. So I'm that kind of person. I'll ask the tough questions, and hopefully I'll get the right answers when I become your commissioner. Thank you.
Same question?
Last 6 months, I've been to 3. Of course, for 23 years, I've been to thousands. And once you retire, you get the sense that the new city attorney, perhaps some of the other staff, maybe it'd be better if you weren't there second guessing what their decisions were. But you can follow the meeting on the agenda. You can determine what's going on. I regularly go to the WICO KCK page and scan the agenda to see what's going on. But I don't think in the 3 years that I've been retired that the procedures in the meetings have drastically changed in how business is done. My answer is I've been to 3.
Okay, this is the next question, and this go to Mr. Walker first, please. What kind of economic vision do you have for Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County?
Well, vision and reality sometimes don't coincide. I have been in Wyandotte County virtually all my life, except when I went to school, and I remember the days when Wyandotte County was the economic engine of the state. When people from Missouri came to Minnesota Avenue, when Strong Avenue was a vibrant commercial hub in a community. Really, I can remember when the Kansas City, Kansas School District was considered the #1 school district in the state. Now, if you ask me for my vision, I'd like to see that vision again, to where we are the #1 area. We are on the cutting edge. And there is reason to be optimistic that we're not alone in wishing that vision, and that certainly has some things to do with what has occurred out west. But what occurred out west is not a unique attribute to the geography or, right place at the right time. That type of vision can be expanded. The 435 corridor is ripe for development, and my vision includes 435 all the way to the state line being developed in the same way as you see it when you start at the Johnson County border.
Question again.
Okay,
to
the
make
question
sure.
again. What kind of economic vision do you have for Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County?
Well, I agree with Hal on most of what he said. And I will agree that in his 35 years of him being at the city, things have sure deteriorated, and it's a shame. We need to get moving again. We need to get away from the old type of government that we had before. And I think many of you people will probably agree with me. We've kind of been in a corrupt form of government forever. And I think we need to go to what we would call a honest government. And I want to tell you a little story that when I was an altar boy as a kid, this priest said something to me that stuck. And he said to the parishioners, he said, "You got to try God. And if you don't like it, the devil will always take you back." I think our city needs to go with honesty. And if we don't like it, we can always go back to corruption. But if you want to build a city, you got to start giving taxpayers their respect. You got to start treating people like they're better than what they are. And what I want for our city is I want what's right, and I want every one of you people to have the same. It's only fair. Thank you.
Okay, this question's for Mr. Reardon. We have addressed several issues tonight, and certainly you've heard about many issues needing attention in District 2 as well as other parts of the county. What will your 3 top budget priorities be if you are elected commissioner of the 2nd District?
My budget priorities, the number 1 budget priorities is going to be transparency. I've asked so many questions about the budget and how it's figured and where these monies went and how it went and who had it that you can't ever get an answer from anybody. The budget, of course, we're strapped down and we're killing ourselves right now with budgets. As of 12 years or 13 years ago or so, our budget for our city to run for 1 year was $79 million. Now it's $279 million. And that's a lot of salaries. We got people in this city who are making $2,000 or $200,000 plus. And we're killing ourselves, and we're killing ourselves with interest. We owe in bonds, we owe $3.8 billion in bonds. Now, think about that as if that was your credit card. What would the interest on that be a month, a year? We got to get out from underneath these debts. We've got to get rid of these tax abatements. We got to give away the giveaways that we're doing and the good old boy deals, the backroom deals. You got to get away from this type of government or you're never going to get out of the hole. There's 2 of my budget things. And the second one is I'd get rid of the guy that's doing the budget because obviously he is not doing a very good job in keeping it in restraint.
Same question.
This is the last question.
Well, I don't know if I heard an answer in that to the budget priorities. Rhetoric is one thing. The reality is that budget reduction, when you compare our budget to the growth in the state and the federal budget, we're far behind the growth in budget. It is the idea that somehow by saying 79 million here and 279 million there, that were just out of control. The reality is, what was your budget back then? What did you make? What do you make now? And the same can be said of the state, the federal government, budgets throughout this country. The reality is that more money is being spent. My budget priority, reduce the real property tax burden. You either cut your budget, cut expenditures, or you find new revenue to come in and tie it. I hear about this tax windfall we're going to get in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years, whatever. And if it does come to pass, we tie that sales tax to real property tax reduction. Secondly, people care about roads. They want the roads to work, the sewers to work. They don't want to hit potholes all year long. We have to provide basic services extremely well. Then we worry about the more exotic or unique type of services. Thank you.
Okay, it is now time for our closing statement. Mr. Walker, you have 1 minute, and Mr. Reardon, you have 1 minute to close, after which.
This election, and what it should be about for you as you look across, is where are we going to go the next 4 years? Are we going to continue to just build at Western Wyandotte County? I love Western Wyandotte County. That's great. But that's not solving the problems in Turner, Argentine, Rosedale, the Northeast, Midtown, Indian Springs. We have to be more diversely focused. I think this election is about knowledge and experience and character. I think in all 3 categories, I far exceed my opponent. I think my life, the experience that I have shown, those of you that know me know that I bring more to the table than my opponent will. He will talk about corruption. He will holler about this. He has no plan, no platform, other than everybody's corrupt and except him.
Thank you. Mr. Reardon.
Well, since we're getting into throwing stones, let's throw some stones. Now, Hal's been working for you as a city for 35 years. He's done nothing. What's he going to do now? All of a sudden, he's going to come over and he's going to be your city councilman and he's going to do something? Why didn't he do it in the 35 years he was working there? People are unhappy. I mean, people are unhappy everywhere. Here's a chart that will show you what the people are thinking about. And 80% are dissatisfied with your government.
30 seconds.
31 are downright angry. 74, the government's on a wrong track. And 63 says the economy hasn't begun to recover. And here's a big reason of why this is all going on. By this poll right here from the New York Post, it says you're lied to 200 times a day. 200.
Time has expired. Okay, thank you, Mr. Reardon and Mr. Walker. Let's give them a round of applause.